Thank you. Thanks for sticking around. Yep, my name's Kate. I'm a Waste Education and Compliance Officer at Byron Shire Council. And today I want to talk to you about our litter campaign, which is titled Butt Free Byron Shire. So just an overview of what I'll talk to you about this afternoon. Firstly, why butts? What indicated to us that intervention was needed to reduce smoking-related litter in the Byron Shire? What we did, how our program developed, who was involved, what were the results over the 12-month period, what we found challenging and difficult, and where to from here. What are we going to do to continue litter prevention? So I'm sure many of you know where Byron Bay is, but if you don't, the Byron Shire is located in the Northern Rivers of New South Wales. It's well known for its beaches, its natural beauty. It's also well known for its music and community events. We have 32,000 residents, but we have 2.1 million visitors annually, which results in sort of seasonal variations in litter. So over the really busy summer periods, we have far more litter than during the rest of the year. So in response to this, we have some litter prevention measures that we had in place. So we have a daily cleanup of micro litter by council every morning in Apex Park, which is the main park that looks over the main beach and the foreshore. We have weekly street sweepers. We conduct litter checks throughout the year. And we also have a bin cleaning team, so our bins always look nice to sort of encourage good behaviour. So why butts? So we used the New South Wales EPA's local litter checks to gain all our baseline data. For those of you who aren't familiar with the local litter checks, it's basically 3 simple steps that you first do a site inspection, you then pick up all the litter in a 48 metre square transect, and then you do a user survey where you talk to people in the area about what their opinions on litter prevention in the area is. And to do this, you can actually target your litter priorities and see what the problem is. So when we did this, we found that 82% of the litter composition in the Byron Shire was smoking related. So we knew that we had a problem, and we thought that that's probably where we needed to start in our litter prevention. So cigarette butts are made of plastic. They're small, they're discreet. They have over 4,000 chemicals. Everything that goes through a cigarette comes out in the butt. And once they sort of go into the sand or into the grass, they're hard to pick up. We have, lots of people, as I've mentioned, coming through our beaches. If a cigarette butt goes into the sand, tide comes up, takes it out. So we knew there was an issue straight away. Byron's home to the Cape Byron Marine Park that conserves many subtropical marine habitats. It also supports higher levels of biodiversity, including threatened and protected species. So it's a really important biological area. We wanted to actually protect Cape Byron Marine Park from microlitter that's shown to have these detrimental effects on marine life. We also wanted to improve amenity for our residents and our visitors. So to identify our litter hotspots, we started off in 2017. We did local litter checks every week between April and July. And we could see from that we were having a lot of cigarette butts. We had about 60% in this Apex Park, which is very visited main park in Byron. We then followed this up with a month-long study where we did weekly local litter checks, and we found the other hotspots in Byron Bay, Suffolk Park, Brunswick Heads, Bangalow, Mullumbimby, Federal, and Coolman Scenic Drive, which is a really popular lookout that looks out over the hinterland and out to the ocean. Litter behaviour. So the structure of our target audience sort of emerged during our local litter checks. During those initial surveys in 2017, we surveyed 55 individuals in Apex Park, and of these, 13 were local and 42 were visitors, and 60% of them were under 30. So we knew that we had this sort of younger demographic in the area. And on days where we did the local litter check, we also recorded half-hour behavioural observations that indicated that most of the people littering, again, were between 15 and 29. We were also part of the New South Wales EPA cigarette butt trial, which I could talk about for a while, but I won't, where the data collected with that was you actually were watching what people did with their butts. It was fun, wasn't it, Rupert? And during that, we really got an idea of the behaviour of what people were actually doing with their butts as well. So we had this good idea of what was going on. So we used all this baseline data to apply for a Round 4 Council Litter Grant, which we were successful in. So we got some crucial grant funding from the New South Wales EPA to run this program. And as such, we followed the EPA's elements of litter prevention, education and awareness, infrastructure, enforcement and evaluation and monitoring. So I'll just go through what we did for each of those. So education. So we wanted to raise community awareness of the impact of littering on Cape Byron Marine Park. We wanted to use the marine park and the marine life there to sort of emote with people and get our message across that way. And to do that, we formed an alliance of community groups that we, as a group, were titled Butt Free Byron Shire. So the group included our lifeguards, Cape Byron Marine Park, National Parks and Wildlife Service, Northeast Waste, Positive Change for Marine Life, who are a non-for-profit group, and we also had some help from Reflections Holiday Parks. And this really let the community sort of own the program, and would have all of these groups represented at all of our educational events. And if someone sort of had, a negative experience with council in the past, they had these other avenues to actually get the message across. They could talk to Positive Change, or they could talk to national parks, and we let the groups also promote their other campaigns, whatever they had going on. So it wasn't just one big event about cigarette butt litter. It had sort of a bit of variety. So this is our butt-free representatives from each of the groups. We've got Louisa from Positive Change for Marine Life, Delta K from National Parks, Peter from Northeast Waste. That's me in a cigarette butt outfit. If you're going to do a cigarette butt campaign, make a cigarette suit because everyone loves it. Hayden, our lifeguard, and Pete from Cape Byron Marine Park. And this is some of the collateral we used. So we promoted all the Don't Be a Tosser messaging, but we also gave out some, which we funded some other sort of messages to give through to hostels and dive centres and like tourist-based businesses to sort of connect back to this marine life and our Cape Byron Marine Park. So these are photos from Julian Rocks. And we ran heaps of educational events throughout the year, some photos from some of them. So we had, we ran beach cleans, we had educational market stalls, had educational talks in the park. We did a joint event with Clean Up Australia Day with Positive Change for Marine Life, where Ziggy Alberts was involved, which was quite fun. We had a screening of Blue the film. We joined other community events such as Festival of the Sea, and we also at the end had a seaside scavenge, which we removed about 400 kilos of rubbish that day, which was also very successful. We also promoted the Don't Be a Tosser messaging. As Rupa was saying earlier, it's got a lot of research behind it. It already resonates with us, so we know that that Hey Tosser and Don't Be a Tosser message is working. And we wanted to keep that consistent message throughout New South Wales. So our Don't Be a Tosser messaging went on our street banners into all the major townships. This one's in Mullumbimby. See a little Mouchin Jogan poking out the back there. So we also had those going into Bangalow, Byron Bay and Brunswick Heads. We had all the Don't Be a Tosser messaging in our local papers. We had a big social media blitz, and we also had all the collateral at each of our educational events and with the flags and banners and stuff like that. And then infrastructure. So infrastructure was a really major part of our program. So we upgraded and expanded our existing butt bin network, but our existing butt bin network was only about 27 butt bins and only in the main urban areas. So we had them in Byron and Mullum and in Brunswick Heads, but not in the rest of the Shire. So we replaced these old sad little butt bins with 128 enviropoles. That's an enviropole there. Most of ours are actually attached to the bin. They were a bit smaller, but the bollard ones look a bit more impressive. And again, all branded with our Don't Be a Toss material. So the enviropoles are sort of, they're larger and they're brightly branded, so you can actually see them. They have a liquid medium in them, so the butt actually extinguishes straight away. And they have a partnership with TerraCycle in America, so they actually do get recycled. And we use that almost as a bit of a incentive. They also have the option of ground adhesive, so you can have educational messages, and they have directional arrows that actually go to the butt bins as well. And we'd sort of use that, recycle your butt here being, a bit of an incentive for people to not put their butt on the ground. We also implemented a smoking ban on the beach. Other councils like Waverley and Manly had done that, and we thought in Byron, with the amount of visitors that come through, it was a really good idea to stop smoking on our beaches. So we amended our smoke-free outdoor policy. That no one had any problems with that through council. And this is where our EnviroPoles were sort of placed as an alternative. There's EnviroPoles everywhere in Byron now, but we actually put them near the beach accesses as well. So when people were then being asked to move off the beach not to smoke, they can just go straight to the beach access where there's an EnviroPole, and they know what to do with their butt, and they can return to the beach very easily. It wasn't like they had to go a million miles away and find somewhere to smoke. And then this little guy in the corner, it's actually the sign that we used when we went down to the beach. So you get down to the beach and there's a big cigarette butt saying, stop, you can't smoke on the beach, was just make it a little bit more lighthearted before people then hit the enforcement sign that's like, don't smoke on the beach. Enforcement, so we also bumped up our enforcement. We had 6 scheduled litter blitzes where they would go down and just target littering along the foreshore, but we also got, they would also implement the smoking ban at that point as well, so go around the beach and actually move people off. They engaged with 120 individuals, but actually had no reason to fine anybody. I sort of kept checking in with them, and they're like, everyone's being was very positive and happy to move off the beach and happy that, that litter was actually being prioritised. So there was no need to fine anybody. Oh, and these are our rangers. So that's Dan with our smoking ban sign up there, and then we've got Tony down on the beach with one of our lifeguards. The lifeguards are amazing as well because they obviously on the beach all the time, so they do this soft enforcement and ask people to move off, and would let me know all the time, let me know that it was all going very well, which was awesome. And evaluation and monitoring. So we partnered with Positive Change for Marine Life to do this. That's the lovely Zoe walking along the beach picking up some rubbish. So we conducted local litter checks every month in 26 locations, which was a lot for just me to do. So Zoe would go out and do them. So she did 312 local litter checks in total, and in that time she picked up 5,857 pieces of litter just in those 48 metre square transects, so which is not very, isn't a very large amount of space. We'd also do quarterly reporting, so we'd make sure we look at the data all the time, and at 6 months we did a big report to make sure that we were hitting our targets. And then our results. So as you can see, the cigarette butts went down, which is awesome. Basically, it's just we did the actual number of items opposed to volume for the cigarette butts because the volume's so small. But basically, it's just the number of items along the side, and then the month. So May, that's May 2018, and April is April that's just passed. And our baseline data is the checkered line up the top. So our baseline data, when we actually looked at our hotspots, decided that these might be places where we have to target. If there was a litter problem, we'd then leave them for a month, and after that month, went and did another local litter check, and then averaged all of those together, which was our baseline data. And then we'd do a litter check every month after that, as we had different interventions to see if we were getting any difference. So just a few little spots to note out. At June, where it starts to go down, that's when we had our launch event with all of our all of our groups, which was heavily in the media. And then in August is where we installed the EnviroPoles, where it starts to shoot down again. It went a little bit up as it started to get a little bit more busy in Byron. November is where we implemented the smoking ban, and at the end of January is where we bumped up our litter enforcement. And just a few numbers I didn't get to put on a slide because I was still crunching numbers. So 83.5% of the litter was cigarette butt smoking related before, compared to the other types of litter being beverage, takeaway or other. That dropped down to 62.25%, so that's a 25.1% decrease. And then that baseline number is 728 related smoking items, and that went down to 158 items, which is about a 78% decrease. We also were measuring the other types of litter as we went. So this graph's exactly the same, it's just including the beverage, smoking and other items. And same thing, just the dotted lines are our baseline data. So the average baseline data for all littered items was 892 items, which went down to 268 items, which is a 69% decrease. We also looked at volume. So our average volume before was 2.58 litres, which went down to 1.76 litres, which is a 31.7% decrease. And we also did the user surveys as those 3 steps of the local litter check. We did those before and after. We didn't do them every month because that would have taken forever. But our average user survey of 26 hotspots went from 62 out of 100 up to 82 out of 100. So we got a positive result from the user surveys as well. Challenges. So the main challenge that we found was that we have this turnover of people coming through Byron all the time. Our community, we were finding, was reacting really well when we'd run our events, and we, from talking to them and interacting with them, we were getting really positive outcomes from them. But we'd talk to someone, about, have you noticed any litter prevention measures? And they've been like, I've been here for a day and I'm going tomorrow. And you'd be like, okay. And you get a lot of that. So there's just a lot of turnover, which would make it really difficult. And because, there's those seasonal increases, over that really busy period, you're just trying to sort of make sure everything's clean and get through it all because it's such a busy time. So we definitely know that was a bit of a challenge. And although our rangers didn't have to actually fine anybody, they're worried about actually getting identification for smoking fines. It's going to be, people are in their cozzies, they're on the beach, they don't necessarily have their licence or their passport with them, and it's hard for our rangers to actually, if any of them did decide to argue with them, which is why they're very happy that there's that positive response and they're moving them off and they're happy with that. But if someone does, go nut and keep smoking, to actually get that identification, they think that's going to be a little bit challenging. Hopefully that doesn't get to that point. And there's also a bit of butt bin damage. Cigarette butts seem to be valuable now. So we have had a few broken into and had a few sort of pulled down, but compared to some other councils, that hasn't really been too much of an issue. And where to from here? So from here, we're actually going to target a campaign based on tourism. So we're in this developing stage with a partnership with Take 3 for the Sea, because they have that sort of internationally known message. So we're going to do a Take 3 for Byron campaign with them and a tourism company to try and sort of target people before they even come to Byron, that there's this Take 3 for Byron sort of message that's coming across. We're also going to upgrade our enforcement signage to include all the beaches. At the moment, we only have, it's only at Main Beach because you're actually enforcing under the Local Government Act, not the POEO Act, so you actually need a sign that says don't smoke, and then that's what we can enforce under. So we have to therefore get signage at every beach access that someone would pass, so that's in the process of doing that as well. We're going to continue with all of our partners as well, but we're also going to continue the litter blitzes. It was really good to get the rangers on board and get them to sort of, make litter a bit more of a priority, because it can get very lost in their many, many challenges, especially up there. That's it. Thank you.